Hello Dr. Berry, I am extremely excited to introduce my project to you, and I sincerely hope that you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it. I have decided to narrow down my topic to the machinations of the Roman legion, and more specifically the Roman legionnaire. As much as I would have loved to delve into a more detailed description and overview of my first project proposal, I understand that there is a time limit, and I must remain within the realms of reason. The Roman Empire is truly remarkable, having the distinction of being one of the largest and longest-lasting empires in history. Due to Rome covering such a vast period of time, when discussing Roman history, I think it's important to stress how long Rome actually existed and to put this concept into a context we can understand. Roman history spans over 12 centuries, or roughly 1200 years. To put this into a frame of reference, our founding fathers sealed the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July, 1776. Making the United States just 245 years old as of today, meaning Rome lasted close to 5 times as long as the United States has existed, which is simply incredible. For the sake of time and perhaps sanity, for this video lecture I will be primarily focusing on the Imperial Roman Legionnaire that came to be as a result of the Marian reforms implemented in 107 BC or before Christ by the statesman Gaius Marius. The Roman army is remembered as one of the most effective military forces throughout all of history. The Roman Empire and her legions from 753 BC or before Christ through 476 AD or Anno Domini dominated the world from the heavily forested regions of both England and France to the windswept hilly plains of Greece and Spain, and even to the scorching deserts of the Middle East and Northern Africa. Such feats could have not been achieved if not for the backbone of the Roman military, the legionnaire. The Roman legionary played a central role in the rapid expansion and consolidation of the empire. Rigorous training regimes, disciplines, ideologies, and the use and assimilation of the most effective equipment of the time enabled the Roman legionnaire to dominate the then known world. In order to grasp a better understanding of what afforded Rome such success, we will start from a low-level analysis and deconstruct and explore the Roman legionnaire. Rome's military went through a series of organizational restructures during the Marian reforms. Gaius Marius proposed radical alterations to the Roman army with the intention of creating a more professional, permanent, and dynamic military. These reforms revolutionized the Roman military machine, introducing the standardized legionary, the cohort, as well as dictating the sort of weaponry and equipment that soldiers would use. The first layer we will look at that the Roman legionnaire wore will be the simple tunic. Due to the madder root rubia tictorum being very common throughout the Mediterranean region surrounding Rome, gave the Romans access to the cheap and plentiful production of red dye. Many tunics sported this red dye due to this reason, and another reason being that the color red was associated with the Roman god of war, Mars. This tunic was also made from primarily 2 materials, being wool or linen, which became the preferred materials for the hotter climates and summer months. Something to take note of is the linen that was used during this time was difficult to dye, leaving many tunics that were fashioned from the material to remain true to their original and natural white hue. The second layer we will inspect that was highly important and essential to the success of the Roman military would be the caligae, or Roman military boot. This may come as a surprise, and although they do resemble sandals, the caligae are in fact an open-toed boot and not a sandal. The Roman soldier was expected to be able to march a staggering 22 miles in less than 6 hours. all the while carrying between 45 through 60 pounds of personal equipment. It has been noted by many historians that much of Rome's success can be attributed to their ability to quickly deploy and mobilize their soldiers and/or outmaneuver their opponents on the battlefield. To accomplish this, legionnaires needed a dependable footwear that could withstand this constant abuse. The caligae was a heavy-duty cow or ox-hide boot that possessed two soles which were held together by hob-nailed rivets. Much like the modern athletic cleat, these hob-nailed rivets supported the Roman soldier by giving them greater grip on the terrain that they would find themselves primarily fighting on or marching through. The open-toe design served several different purposes. One such purpose was it allowed the boot to drain quickly in wet climates or terrain. Another purpose that the boot provided was natural ventilation and less heat retention. This was important to the reduction of blisters or other foot complications, which meant soldiers could march and fight for longer. The third piece of equipment we will investigate is the cingulum militare, or the military belt. The cingulum was closely tied to the legionnaire's identity. The Romano-Jewish historian and military leader Flavius Josephus wrote that the jingles from the cingulum belt and the crunch of the iron hobnailed boots announced the presence of the Roman soldier. The sound that arose from thousands of legionnaires marching in step was intended to inspire awe and fear amongst onlookers. The soldier's cingulum was a great source of pride for the legionnaire and often was adorned with embellishments, trinkets, and medals, personalizing the soldier's belt. The belt also had other practical uses, such as distributing the weight of the armor from the shoulders to the hips, as well as providing another layer of light protection to the groin. The first piece of metal armor we will analyze will be the GALEA. The Imperial Legionary's helmet, or GALEA, was a combination of the best features of the earlier Italian Montefortino rounded helmet and the cheek-shaped, hinged-pieced Gallic helmet. A robust neck guard, ear cutouts, and a visor with eyebrow ridges are the most prominent features of the GALEA helm. The hinged cheek and neck guards allowed Roman legionnaires to mount their helmets on their chest during long marches, as well as serve as a way to tighten and form the helmet to the legionnaire's jaw. The armor plate or neck guard that fans out from the lower back of the GALEA served as an extra layer of defense for the neck area, which would often be exposed during the heat of battle. The visor or brow served simply as an extra reinforcement for the front of the helmet. And perhaps two of the most important attributes to the legionnaire's helmet is the open face aspect as well as the ear cutouts, both of which contributed to Rome's discipline and tactical advantage in their ability to clearly see and hear orders by their officers. The LORICA segmentata, or segmented plate armor, came into use during the reign of Augustus around 27 BC. Although being the favored armor during the 1st century AD, older forms of armor such as chainmail and scale armor did not completely disappear from use within the Roman legions. Each class of armor had its own virtues and disadvantages. The LORICA SQUAMATA, or scale armor, was comprised of small bronze scales layered and overlapped into a linen or wool underpadding and provided the least amount of protection for the soldier. An advantage of the LORICA SQUAMATA is it was the least expensive to produce and was easily repairable. The Romans also adopted chainmail from the Celtic tribes and modified the design further by including riveted rings which reinforced the protective strength of the armor. The LORICA HAMATA, or mail armor, allowed for the greatest flexibility of movement of the three dominant armor types, despite being the heaviest. Although providing greater protection and mobility than the LORICA, SQUAMATA, the LORICA HAMATA was extremely labor-intensive and costly to produce. The LORICA SEGMENTATA, or segmented armor, provided the greatest protection of the three, as well as being significantly lighter than its mailed counterparts. The drawback of the segmentata was the fact that it was costly and time-consuming to maintain and repair when put to heavy use. The gladius has a special place in Roman history as being one of the longest used weapons, whether from the early Roman Republic period or later imperial stages of Rome's history. Historically, the most common weapon that was put to use has been the spear. It's a weapon that requires little training and is highly effective at achieving its purpose. So why then did Rome favor the short sword or gladius over the spear? The answer to this question lies in two key elements. The first element being is that the gladius was not a weapon the Romans wielded alone. The gladius was always used in combination with the Roman shield or scutum. It is this combination of gladius and shield that enabled the Roman legionnaire to be such a formidable and deadly force on the battlefield. The second reason Rome favored the gladius was heavily dependent on who their enemies were. A great majority of Rome's enemies were unarmored or lightly armored opponents, making a very quick thrusting weapon exceedingly deadly and highly effective. This leads us into our next piece of equipment, the scutum romanum. Constructed from 3 alternating layers of wood and covered in felt or calfskin, with an iron boss at the center and finished with a metal frame, the scutum was a large rectangular, purposely curved shield that was iconic to the Roman legion and saw wide use throughout the 3rd century. One of the defining characteristics of this massive shield was the intended curvature of its frame. Unlike other shields during this time that were flat or simply rectangular in shape, the curvature design of the scutum worked as a shock absorber, spreading the force of impact and controlling the recoil of such blows. This provided a tactical advantage over Rome's enemies due to them exerting large amounts of energy to little or no effect on the legionnaire. Not only did the scutum excel at protection due to its design, but also could be used as a blunt weapon by bashing the iron boss at the center of the shield against the enemy. The metal frame of the scutum also served several purposes, such as providing structural integrity, an extra layer of defense against axes or bladed weapons, and as well as a base to plant the shield firmly in the ground to brace against enemy charges. The unsung hero or piece of weaponry that is often underappreciated or perhaps misunderstood is the Roman PILLUM or javelin. A simple point that I want to address is regarding the elongated spearhead or shank at the end of the PILLUM and the purpose of this design. It is assumed that Rome designed this long iron neck for the pilla to penetrate a shield and then bend, rendering the shield useless. This is only partly true, and although the bending may have occurred, it was rare and not the primary reason for the extended neck. The primary reasoning for the extended spearhead was not to bend but to penetrate and not only disable the shield, but to inflict damage on the soldier carrying the shield, rendering the shield out of service as useful, but if you can render the soldier out of service, that is even better. Another important idea is that almost all military forces that existed during this time, whether it was the Carthaginians, Egyptians, or Gallic tribes, used shields as their primary defense. Having a weapon that can render a shield useless while inflicting injury or worse meant that the Roman legions had immense control on the outcome of their battles. The combination of discipline, superior equipment, and training all contributed to the success and dominating force that is the Roman legionnaire. Many, if not all of these practices or ideas are still in use today in our modern militaries. And finally, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to my video lecture. I had to learn many new skills in order to make this work, but it was enjoyable. So thank you.